Hello, folks. This is Corey Gerard, and I like to welcome you all to Monster Wars. This is an exciting, epic battle between Darth Vader and Freddy Krueger of number 8 in this series. So lay back and enjoy. Now, Priestess Marilyn is shown closing her eyes, and then she opens them to a shocking mirror vision. Lene and Krueger are seen fighting in a dream boiler room, so Marilyn goes to her bed and lays on voodoo-marked sheets. Next, Freddy and Lene are shown in the dream, and Krueger says, "I have something you want, so let's make a deal, fairy." Then Lene replies, "The only deal is that I'll lay you to waste." Freddy is now seen running, so Lene runs after him, as shown doing so. Then Freddy stops in front of an open furnace, which has Nancy inside of it, while tied up with her mouth covered. Lene then arrives and sees her friend in there, and Krueger says, "Don't take another step, or I'll turn your friend into a fried crispy meal." Lene can see that Freddy has his hand on a heat lever, so she expresses a facial concern and says, "Don't worry, Nancy, I'll get you out of there." Freddy then replies, "You won't do nothing but give me your power, or I'll light this bitch up like a Christmas turkey." Then suddenly a portal is seen opening, and then a voodoo priestess walks through it 15 feet behind Lene. This scary lady is wearing a black flowing gown, a necklace of animal skulls, and a horned face mask. Now Lene, Freddy, and Nancy are shown looking at her in shock. Then the priestess Marilyn conjures 3 dolls which now hover near her face. Then Freddy is seen saying, "Who is this far out chick?" So Marilyn grabs 2 dolls that look like Lene and Nancy, and then she removes dark shades from those dolls' hearts. Next, Lene and Nancy's fairy powers are fully restored, and then we see Nancy break out of the furnace trap. Both of these fairies are shown in their costumes again, with long flowing capes. Nancy is now seen saying, "That's what was blocking our fairy powers." The golden fairy then replies, "Yes, and we can't let Krueger escape," as her hair and eyes show mystic flames. Freddy then confronts the voodoo priestess and yells, "I'll kill you first." Then he runs at Marilyn, but she takes his image doll and breaks its arm. So Freddy stops and grabs his broken left arm, as shown doing so. Then Lene shoots Freddy in the back with her gold flames, which came from her eyes. Then Nancy quickly flies to him and then wraps Krueger's legs together with a light string from her bracelet. Now another type of portal is shown opening, which has red light energy. Then suddenly a black hand reaches through and tears a piece of a wall down. Now Darth Vader is seen entering this dream along with big spiders. Oh, Vader's courtyard and his dimension is partially shown because of the wall he tore out. Freddy then says, "Oh, it's the problem child again," as the light string seems to be burning his legs. Next, a Vader doll is conjured by the voodoo priestess, and she takes hold of it as shown doing. Now both fairies walk to Vader, and Nancy says, "Brother, have you come to help?" So Vader replies, "I'll help myself." Then he quickly encircles his pinky finger, and puts energy rings around Nancy and Lene's neck by using dark side manipulation. Next, Darth Vader uses the Force to hurl these ladies back as they struggle with Vader's energy binds. Then the Sith Lord waves a hand and then drops a heavy object on Freddy Krueger. Now the priestess is shown sticking a pin into the Vader doll, which causes Darth Vader to yell in pain. So the Dark Lord pulls that doll out of her hand and catches it with the Force. He then wraps a raw energy band around Marilyn's neck with that same power and breaks her mask with the dark side. The spiders do not attack because they await Vader's command as shown doing so. Now the fairies are seen destroying their binds, which looked electric. Lene looks at Nancy and says, "So your brother is here with giant bugs, and a witch friend has crashed the party too." Now Nancy replies, "Yeah, I have a dysfunctional family, and I don't think she's a witch because her magic comes from voodoo." Then Lene responds by saying, "Yes, her outfit and dolls make it appear so, and by the way, some voodoo and witchcraft are one and the same." Nancy then says, "Lene, you always like to be right." So Lene replies, "Right you are, Nancy." Now the fairies see Krueger as he gets out from under that fallen tanker. The Nightmare King then puts his dirty hat on and says, "I'm good as new, folks." So Nancy wraps her light string around Freddy's waist from behind him while Lene rushes over to Darth Vader. Now Vader sends the spiders at Lene, Krueger, and Nancy by gesturing his finger with a mental command. Freddy then cuts the light string from his waist and elbows Nancy in her head as bugs are shown bouncing off of the golden fairy shield. Now Vader ignites his lightsaber and then throws it at the priestess, but that blade missed her by an inch as seen doing so. Now Marilyn puts both hands up and says, "Bind this foe." Next, two thick cords quickly fall from the ceiling and then wrap around Vader's wrist. It seems her voodoo magic is much formidable. Now Marilyn conjures a doll of herself which has a small energy collar around its neck. So she pulls that Ray-Ban from this doll's throat, and then the full-size one around her neck disappears. The Golden Fairy and Nancy are now seen shooting rays of energy at the spiders. More bugs are shown entering through the wall opening. Now a spider lands on Freddy Krueger, so he cuts it and says, "You victims forget that I am the fear maker." Then Vader is seen lifting his sword with a mind power, and then the lightsaber cuts him free. The Dream Devil then turns himself into a giant Freddy as this room transforms into a wide open space with a high up ceiling. Then Krueger spits out black goo, which transforms into a dark shadow as seen doing so. Next, this shadow splits off into smaller pieces and attaches to the open wall and closes it to stop new spiders from coming in. Now Lene looks concerned while afloat, and her hair and eyes aren't fiery at this time. Now other pieces become sharp pellets and shoot towards Lene, Nancy, Vader, and Marilyn. So the fairies fly out of the way and their pellets hit a wall. Vader balls his fist and his sharps turn to dust. and Priestess throws up sand, which blocks incoming pellets. Now the caped fairies attack a big menace Krueger as he steps on Vader pets and squashes them. Freddy now replies, "I hate these bugs and the rest of you are next." Both fairies close in and fire magic at Fred Krueger, so he swats them away. Then the voodoo priestess sets Vader and Giant Freddy on fire by flaming their dolls with a voodoo chant. Krueger is then seen yelling in pain, and flames cover his large body. The Golden Fairy and Fairy Nancy then look at each other and say, "Glad she's on our side." Now Vader is shown pushing a button on his chest, and then white smoke covers him and puts out his flames. It seems the Dark Lord has a built-in fire extinguisher. Then suddenly the lights go out and then turn back on. Now Krueger is seen behind Marilyn as Vader stands in front of her. Then the priestess says, "Own spirit be gone," as Vader and Freddy are shown tearing her body apart. And Krueger has shrunken down to regular size. The caped heroes are stopped in mid-air across the room, and Lene yells no as they now fly over, but they're too late to help Marilyn, the voodoo priestess. Then Vader holds up his left hand and freezes Nancy and Lene in flight. Next, this villain Sith uses the Force and then throws both fairies on top of Freddy Krueger as shown doing so. The scene then moves to Marilyn's home outside of the dream. The voodoo priestess is now seen waking up from that nightmare on Elm Street. It appears she made it out in time before being killed. Next, Vader is shown removing his right glove and helmet. Now this Sith is seen draining the life energies from Freddy, Lene, and his sister Nancy. Darth Vader extracts their power into his organic skin of hand and bald head. Vader also has them frozen in a paralysis state, which makes the consumption process easier. Now, on the other side, Priestess Marilyn is shown sitting in front of her large mirror. She then picks up fish eyes and says, "Reveal unto me." Then that mirror becomes a viewer and shows Vader gaining an upper hand over everyone in the dream. Next, the scene returns to the nightmare and the force drain is still happening. Now Lene says, "Nancy, we have to stop him before he drains us entirely." So Nancy replies, "Yeah, ready when you are." Then Freddy remarks, "Yes, because your souls are mine." Then Lene shoots a fairy beam out of her eyes, which disrupts Vader's intake as Nancy fires a small energy bolt at his leg and it knocks him down. Both fairies barely could move, but still managed that attack on Darth Vader. Now Vader's eyes are shown enraged and appear bright yellow. His leg is sparking because of that energy shot, but he quickly stands and reconnects the drain before they regain their strength. Now Freddy, Nancy, and Lene are seen being force drained again. Darth Vader is taking more this time because his eyes and mouth are pulling in their life forces too. Then suddenly Vader takes out a Sith holocron and then it floats near the drain captives. Next, its ghost-like gatekeeper emerges from the top of this triangle device. This evil spirit of light then grabs those three and tries to pull them inside of the holocron as Vader drains them as shown doing so. Now Lene, Nancy, and Freddy look horrified at seeing. Nancy then says, "What is that thing?" as the suction pulls them closer in. So Lene replies, "Nancy, try to connect to your brother before it's too late." A paralyzed Freddy then says, "Yeah, Nancy, tell the bastard to stop." Fairy Nancy then uses her last bit of strength to punch Freddy in his nose and says, "Shut up, you sick fiend. I'll deal with you soon enough." Now Darth Vader is looking power drunk as he feeds on enriched sources. Nancy then closes her eyes and directs some of her childhood memories into Vader's mind as shown doing so. Now Vader is starting to recollect having a baby sister in his other life, so he stops draining them, but that gatekeeper doesn't halt the abduction. Next, the voodoo priestess is shown watching events of that same dream. She knows that Lene and Nancy are in need of her help, so Marilyn casts a portal spell and says, "Back where you all begin and leave." Now 4 portals are seen opening in this Krueger nightmare. Now the gatekeeper gets pulled back into its holocron by an unseen force. Then suddenly Vader is pulled through his portal and arrives back at his fortress along with helmet, mask, and holocron. Freddy is next pushed into an exit portal by a reversed wind spiral. Nancy is then sent into a blue light portal as Lene tries to hold on to her, and Golden Fairy Lene is sent through a portal surrounded by sparkling stars. Now the scene goes to Vader's backyard court on planet Tyron. The Emperor is then seen crushing large bugs with the dark side as he nears Darth Vader. Darth Sidious then says, "You have much to explain," as Vader kneels. Next, the scene changes and shows Freddy knelt by Amenia, the vampire queen, who sits on a throne. Then Freddy says, "Who are you and what is this place?" So all of a sudden, many scary monsters run out and then surround Freddy. The scene then goes to Lene in the beautiful place, and hundreds of fairies are shown greeting her. The Golden Fairy Lene then flames her hair and eyes to show her fully restored power. And lastly, Nancy is seen opening her eyes, and they glow bright with fairy magic. Yes, she has awoken from her coma. The end. Well, folks, stay tuned for the next exciting episode in this story.